and there was a guy named Jim Reeves. He was a country western singer.
Yeah.
Lived in Carthage, over Carthage, Texas. And he was a disc jockey, played records here and there. And I believe, although what I read about him didn't imply, but I believe he was a disc jockey at KGRI.
He was.
And in between songs, he would sing, play his guitar and sing. In 1950, Daddy and Uncle Ike decided they would do commercial watermelons. Well, watermelons commercially. Okay. So they did that for about 2 or 3 years. In 1953, Uncle Ike decided, I'm going to run for county commissioner, precinct 4. And everybody said, who is Ike Holland? We don't know who Ike Holland is. If you remember now, back in those days, you had a little, you had word of mouth, virtually no television, no telephones, so no one knew who Uncle Ike was, you know. Well, I stood on the street corner in Henderson and passed out business cards that said, vote for Ike Holland for county commissioner. Nobody knew who Ike Holland was. So, Daddy and Uncle Ike, and I'm assuming some others, perhaps Joanna and some others, got together and they said, what are we going to do? You know, what are we going to do? We've advertised. We're going to have an old-time political rally. Daddy pulled a trailer out in the hayfield, across the field from our house, and they said, we're going to do 2 things. We're going to have Jim Reeves come and pick and sing, and we're going to give away free ice cream. That was going to be our political rally. And I want you to know, it worked. Everybody in Rusk County came. I think people from outside Rusk County came for free ice cream and Jim Reeves picking and singing. So we had the political rally. As a matter of fact, there were so many people. Patsy's brother, oldest brother, and I parked cars in that hayfield out across. We had to show people where to park. There were so many people there. It was a great event. Make a long story short, Uncle Ike was elected county commissioner in 1954, served for 16 years, and retired in 1970. But Jim Reeves moved on to Shreveport, Louisiana, went to work for KWKH, which broadcast the Louisiana Hayride. Now, some of you might not remember the Louisiana Hayride. It was a country western show. It was a country western show, just like the Grand Ole Opry.
Yep.
And he was a disc jockey there. And one night, a guy named Hank Williams didn't show up for the Louisiana Hayride, and Jim Reeves got a chance to sing on the Hayride, and it made his career move on. He moves up to Nashville, Tennessee, and starts his career. And most of you remember, in 1964, 11 years after he was at our rally, he was killed in a plane crash. He and one of his band members, I'm sorry.
He wasn't on that flight.
Oh, he wasn't? He was 40 years old. 40 years old when he died in 1964. But he and a band member had been on a business trip and were flying back into Nashville, Tennessee, and was crashing and was killed in a plane crash. And I made a couple of notes. And by the way, in 1967, 3 years after he died, he was inducted into the Hall of Fame in Nashville, Tennessee.
Robert, I remember one thing. His